and we went down there and we got beat 5-0. And the referee, he sent my goalkeeper off, big Jason Mooney. And I said to the referee at the end of the game, I says, thanks, you've cost me my job, because I knew I was hanging on. And then there was a famous vote to sack me. There was 8 in the committee, and 4 voted to sack me, and 4 voted to keep me. And the chairman, Gordon Stewart, was one of the ones who voted to keep me. So his vote carried because it was a draw, and I kept my job by the skin of my teeth.
Hello everyone, we're delighted to be back recording podcasts for 2023. We have loads of good guests lined up over the next few months, so please like and subscribe to our channel to be sure not to miss out on any. Here is the first of the new year, Ballymacash Rangers manager Lee Forsythe. Hope you enjoy. It's great to welcome Ballymacash Rangers manager Lee Forsythe onto the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you. Lee, we're just going to start off the podcast the same way we do with everybody else. And just could you tell us about your earliest memories of playing football or getting into football?
Yeah, just really football was a big thing growing up. Really in the household, really a football family, if you like, with my dad and my brother. Always just kind of always football fanatics. So kind of grew up being a big Glentoran fan, big Liverpool fan, really from an early age, and supporting those teams, and just really playing football in school. Always out with my friends playing football, and just the normal kind of schoolboy, just obsessed with football, and kind of going to Glentoran games was a big thing for me as a young boy. Kind of followed the team home and away with my granddad as well, who took me and my brother. So they were kind of got me to fall in love with football, really, with those memories and watching that kind of great Glentoran team, really. So really just then played through my school. The BB was a big thing for me growing up as a young boy, going to the boys brigade, and that was kind of the main kind of football outlet when I was growing up, and all my kind of friends played for the BB, and really played for the BB and the school from really 8, 9 through primary school right up to probably kind of 15, 16. So always enjoyed it and done well, but always had probably more of an interest in the other side of the game really than playing. But wasn't probably some of the other guests I've been on with you have probably been a bit I'm sure better playing careers than me, but it certainly certainly wasn't the worst. I enjoyed my time playing football, and I was a very, very kind of honest player, and probably talked it better than I played it. But great, really good memories of all that, and kind of just I think anybody who knew me, my nickname used to be Stato as a kid, because I could have told you players' kind of birthdays and of anything about them, previous clubs, and just that kind of obsession. Used to collect football cards, I remember, pro set football cards from I was about 5 years old, and I've still got them in mum and dad's attic. You're talking a couple of thousand, and I could have researched every player, told you every player, every team from Northern Ireland, the Irish League to England, right the way through. So I was always obsessed with that side of the game, and players, and especially managers as well, and just kind of results. And it was just something that I lived and breathed really, growing up.
So you playing a little bit, and when did your first steps into coaching or management, or when did you kind of have that in your head? Because some coaches say, when I was in my late 20s or whatever, I started doing my coaching badges, or I started managing a team along the side. Or can you remember a specific time you thought?
It never, I don't know, it never really, it really wasn't in my plan. It's a kind of funny story I've told before about, I used to be obsessed with playing kind of football manager or Premier Manager. It used to be when I was a kid, and I remember mum and dad, I think it was about 10 or 11, and I wanted a Liverpool manager jacket that Roy Evans used to wear in the sideline. It was a cream one, and I got this for a present for my birthday. And I used to sit in my bedroom wearing this full manager's coat, playing like Premier Manager. It used to be on it was the Sega Mega Drive or whatever it was back then, and that was kind of, so I always had that interest and obsession, but really I never really thought it would maybe materialise. I just thought it would kind of be a football fanatic and kind of go to the Glens games, and used to go to the Glentoran matches an hour early just to sit in the stand and watch the team warm up. But really then my brother actually was the first one who he actually he started managing or coaching one of the BB teams, and I think I helped him out. I was maybe 15, 16. And then when he moved to Carrick to live, and he started taking a youth team at Carrick, I think maybe under 15s at Carrick. And then again, I went to help him out. I was probably maybe 17 around this age. And that was my first kind of introduction into, really thinking about, because James would he asked me to maybe, take training or take a session. That was the first kind of time I started to think and design training and, think about what you would do and how you prepare for a game, what the players would need. So again, like with me, I'm very all or nothing. So if you get me to do something and I do something, I'll go all in for it and become obsessed about it. And that was kind of very much hard football. I just got the bug then from that age, and that was kind of how that kind of snowballed in terms of helping my brother at Carrick for probably two seasons with that under 15, under 16 group. And then I wanted to venture out on my own, and that was kind of how I got into management from there.
So you seen yourself very much more like a manager than a coach, even from a very early age?
Yes, so no, definitely. I think management, and just players and having that relationship with players, and management was, anybody who knows me even now, I can coach, I can take a session, I've got my A license, but it's not my passion. There's people who, will have a passion for coaching and helping, but I would be more interested in the tactical side of the game than taking players to do wee drills, so no, definitely wanted to be a manager. That was always, I think, very, 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 very clear. And then I say my first introduction into that was I moved to Newton Ards to live, and that was how I applied for the Ards Youth under 15 job, and that was my first 2004. That was my first, I think it was 21. That was my first kind of managerial venture, and again, could probably tell you every team, every selection I played, every starting 11, just have that memory and obsession for football.
Mm-hmm. So that was into Ards, then you moved out into on your own in terms of a manager. How did you kind of, with the experience that you had at Carrick, how did you kind of build your teams to play, and how would you like your teams to play, and was there like maybe a team across the water that you followed that you liked the way they played, or how did you kind of come up with your own kind of style of management, which is a big term that's used these days?
My hero growing up as a young boy was Roy Coyle, who was the Glentoran manager, very, very successful Glentoran manager, and obviously was very successful with Linfield before that, but at Glentoran I idolised this man, watched his teams every week, and even things I do today still very much in what I witnessed and what I watched in Roy Coyle, and Roy Coyle and that Glentoran team were, people be watching this laughing, and they know me and they know what I like to play, was 4-4-2, and that was how I grew up, watching those great Glentoran teams, of kind of 4-4-2 with two traditional old-fashioned wingers, kind of Tim McCann on the right, Stuart Elliott on the left, and two centre forwards up front, and two hard-working centre midfielders, and that really from 2004. And listen, I've done other things and I've ventured into other formations, and it's not a one-trick pony. As I said, before we came on camera, one player moves 5 yards and all of a sudden it's a different system. But that was very much my values, and I think just growing up as well, my dad used to play and he was a winger, and he was always kind of very much emphasised to me about wingers, and watching even the Liverpool teams with kind of John Barnes and then Steve McManaman, and so I was always loved. I was like getting the ball wide and getting crosses into the box, and I say Roy Coyle at Glentoran done that very, 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 very successfully. So that was my I took that with me. I took that when I went into the Ards, and I think football back then was maybe a wee bit different than it is now. Everybody's kind of obsessed about the right way to play, and all this kind of possession stats and stuff. For me it was just about scoring more goals than the other team. And when I went into the Ards, very, very started at under 15 level, it really was. I wanted to get wingers, and every club I've went into, whether it be going through the Ards Rangers or Knockbreda or coming here at Ballinamacashe, was about getting wingers into the football club, and that's what we've done from under 15, and we've done very, 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 very well at that age group at under 15. And I say a few of those players like Mark Drysdale and Ryan Newbury are actually with me now. I still at Ballinamacashe from that age group, and we took the under 15s, we took the under 16s at Ards, then we moved into the under 18s, took that team right through for 4 years, and that was a great learning curve, a great learning time, because I think at Ards at the time when I was on Ards under 18 manager, the first team were in the Premier League, and there was no reserve team, so the under 18s was effectively the second side of the Ards, and that was brilliant. Just because you were so close to such great players in that Ards team at the time, Jason Hill, Andy Waterworth, all playing for, and I was a young manager, and initially it was George Neal as manager, and then Gary Hillis and Eamon Morrison, and it was Soupy Campbell, John Bailey, so it was great for me. I was just hoovering up all the information and everything that I saw and witnessed and watched, and so it was great as a young manager being under 18s and having that team, and that was brilliant for me. That was a massive learning curve, I feel like.
So you're working your way through at youth team level, underage level, you're kind of building this style of management up, and then you're being quite successful. You then take your first steps into senior management. Yeah,
at Ards Rangers, yeah. So basically, the team that I had at Ards under 18s had kind of maybe finished its cycle. They were all kind of too old, and we had win the Irish Youth Cup 1-0 was kind of my last game at Ards under 18s, and we'd beat a Cliftonville side who'd win the league with like a Joe Gormley in it and stuff, and it was we probably weren't expected to win. And at the end of that, it was a case of having to start again at under 18s, and because I was in Newton Ards Rangers job had came up. I was only 24 at the time, and I applied for the job and lied about my age and told them I was 28. And I went for the interview, and I didn't honestly think that I had a chance of getting it. I think Brian McCarroll, who went on to have a good management career of his own at Lex Dundela, I think he was favoured to get the job, but for whatever reason they didn't come to an agreement, and they offered it to me, and it was sheer panic probably when I first got the job, because I was like, what am I actually going to do here? But I think the attraction for me from Ards Rangers' point of view was that I could bring really an under 18 team, who were all too old for that group, and move them across the Ards Rangers, and I mean, you talk about now, I think that's what makes slightly my experience a wee bit unique. There's a lot of players now who will retire and have great footballing careers, and they'll do their badges and they will go into management, and they won't have the first clue about pressure, and what it's like to pick a team or drop a team, or have, keep a board happy, keep supporters happy. And at 24, I was thrust into it, because Ards Rangers were, certainly in the area, is a big club, and a very demanding club with lots of people around the club who had an opinion, and I had to manage that at a very young age and struggled. There was the forums, it used to be the old NI football forums. I was getting slaughtered on it, and I really struggled, but it was great. It's a great experience. There was a period where I lost 10 games in a row in my first year at Ards Rangers at kind of 24, and I was being criticised from everywhere, and it was not a good time for, but now it shaped me fantastically. And I think I've said this story before. Our 10th game was away to Warrenpoint Town in one of the cup games, and nobody knew at that stage how good Warrenpoint were going to be. Barry Gray was the manager, they were a Middlesbrough League club, and we went down there and we got beat 5-0, and the referee he sent my goalkeeper off, big Jason Mooney, and I said to the referee at the end of the game, I said, thanks, you've cost me my job, because I knew I was hanging on. And then there was a famous vote to sack me. There was 8 in the committee, and 4 voted to sack me, and 4 voted to keep me. And the chairman, Gordon Stewart, was one of the ones who voted to keep me. So his vote carried because it was a draw, and I kept my job by the skin of my teeth. But then that same season, we actually won 10 games in a row, and we got promoted. We finished runners-up to Abbey Villa, whose manager at the time was Graham Bailey, who's now the Bangor chairman. So it's a bit of a link there. So that was unbelievable. From a real low, and thinking I can't do this. And I think it was the case of we brought so many young players across from under 18 football at 18 years of age, and it probably took them 6 months to get the grips with adult football, and complemented by a couple of senior players in that Ards Rangers team. But we went on to get promoted that year, and then we got into the Premier League and lost the Premier Division title on our last day of the season. So everybody thought we'd get relegated. I mean, actually, we lost the league, and we finished runners up in our first year, and it just really went from there. Went from strength to strength, and we obviously had a real successful period at Ards Rangers, and it was something I'll always look back on. But I think it's really shaped me who I am today, and it gives me that experience, because I'm not old. I've just turned 39, but in terms of experience and managerial, kind of experience behind me, I've had the highs, I've had the lows, I've had the pressure, I've had the, the criticism and, people shouting things at me and people criticising me, and, I have a very thick skin to it now, so, it doesn't bother me as much as maybe some others.
I just want to go back to when you first got the Ards Rangers job and you were so young. Did you manage to bring anybody in alongside you with more experience, or what way did you kind of go about shaping your coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I probably went through a rake of coaches, because I think what I've learnt, and this is one thing I've learnt, I brought in very, very good coaches. I wanted to bring in the top coaches who could help me and assist me, and probably at times undermined me, because I was such a young manager. And I think what I learnt in football, and is get people around you who are, who have your back and who are loyal to you. And I say, obviously, I think we'll have that now. But I say, obviously, Davy Lemon, who's been with me now a long time. Davy's very, very loyal. But I think that was my. So yes, at Ards Rangers, at times that was actually probably a problem at the start for me, because I had so many different staff. I went through so many different staff at Ards Rangers, because I think I just couldn't find, someone who had maybe just struggled to take direction from a 24, 25-year-old when they were maybe, I was a variety of different people, coming in at different ages, and different, far more senior experience than me, and management experience and playing experience. So I think they struggled with that. So we probably had to kiss a few frogs before we found our kind of, our prince. But I say Jackie Kerr, I have to give a mention to. He became my player assistant at Ards Rangers, and that was a real great match. It was perfect for us. It worked really well. But I think initially, I say it did take a while to settle. It took a while to settle, is the best way to put it.
So you say it was a very successful time. What was winning your first trophy at Ards Rangers like, after all that kind of, all the lows and all the hard times? What was winning your first trophy like?
Literally, we win the Premier Division in 2012. Ards Rangers were only ever won it once before in their history. So we'd win promotion, and it was nice, it was great. But obviously we finished runners up, we didn't win anything. We didn't get a trophy. That league in 2012, it was the best high, and I've won leagues, and I've won leagues since it, and I've won cups and all since it, but that as a high was the greatest high. So I was 28 when I won the Amateur Premier Division. It's probably a record. I don't think there'd be any other manager who's probably win that trophy as young. Was unbelievable. Was the best day. I think it was 5th of May 2012. Never forget it. And an unbelievable, euphoric. Just that full-time whistle. And it was us against Albert Foundry, who were going for the league. It was us, two teams. Came down to the last day shootout. They needed to win the league, and then we needed a draw to win the league, and Ryan Newbury scored the winner in the 81st minute for us to win 1-0. So just unbelievable, just because nobody could take it away from me. Once it done, no matter what happened to me after that period, nobody could take that success away from me.
And do you think once you got the first one over the line, then that just led to more success?
Yeah, I think, I had this crazy idea, again, youthfulness. I had this crazy idea, right, now we're going to win it, we're going to play like Barcelona, and we're going to win it in this different style, and so it started to change my ways, lasted about 3 months, and I went, right, we're knocking this in the head, so, and again, it's all learning, I said, now we're going to win it style, but yeah, it didn't materialise, so it took us a bit of time. It took me a bit of time to probably kind of catch myself on and kind of go back to, but if it's not broke, why fix it, type of thing. And but certainly what that did for Ards Rangers was, it established us as a big name in amateur football. And I think they used to be, back in the day. But I think the fact we were back at that kind of top table and getting players to come in was a lot easier, because we'd been there and we'd win the league, and people then started to know who I was, and so that laid the foundations for obviously the future kind of success. And we were bridesmaid a lot of times. We had lots of runners ups as well, but we were always competing. I think my worst season at Ards Rangers, my lowest achievements was we finished 5th one year and we got beaten 2 cup finals. So that was the worst season in Ards Rangers. So when I look back at that, it's kind of nice to to look back on it. So it's not a bad worst season,
So having such a successful time at Ards Rangers, why did that come to an end? How did that come to an end?
I think just it was time. I think it was time. I was getting frustrated that the club probably weren't pushing on or wanted to push on, didn't have the ambition to push on. It probably wasn't right for them at that time. But we'd win the double in 2015, winning the Premier Division and winning the Border Cup, which was unbelievable. And I think I was starting to lose players to higher level, which was frustrating. It never really happened. Hadn't happened too many times, maybe the odd exception. But it was kind of becoming more and more common, where players were going to Dundela or going to the Welders, or I want to play in Championship, I want to play at a higher level. And, we get beaten in the Intermediate Cup final, which at the time was, now Championship 1 clubs aren't allowed in the Intermediate Cup. Back then they were. And we got beat 1-0 in the final of the Institute. We were regularly beating Championship 1 sides during my time at Ards Rangers, regularly. We beat Championship 1 side. I think that year we got to the final. I think nearly every team was a Championship 1 side. So it was frustrating for me. I felt we were good enough. I felt I was good enough. I wanted to test myself. Wanted the club to move forward. So I think just after 9 years, I kind of got a bit of itchy feet, and wanting to see what else was out there. I felt like I'd achieved all I probably could at the amateur side of the game. So I wanted to move. I didn't want to move on, but I was open to seeing what else was out there, and then a few things obviously came up then, which led to me leaving.
So your next step then from Ards Rangers was to Knockbreda.
Yeah.
Was that an applied position, or did they come and ask for your services?
It was. I had made I think I'd sent I knew Colin Russell. I think I'd sent him, I can't even really remember, but I think I'd sent him a text message. I'd seen it advertised and I'd sent him a text message. I think it was around my B licence. I think it was a question around my B licence at the time. And I asked a question, and Colin said, give me a ring. And I'd give him a ring, and then I texted him on a Friday and they offered me the job. Met him on the Saturday morning, they offered me the job on a Monday. But again, beyond that, there was actually an approach from Bangor. So Bangor had approached me. Bangor had just been relegated to the Ballymena League, and they had approached me, and I think they were having a bit of an internal struggle over their board position between the board that was there and a new board that was coming in, and the new board had kind of approached me to say that they would have been interested in me being the manager, but they weren't in power yet, and if they were in power, would I be interested? And I was absolutely. And then the Knockbreda thing came along at the same time, so Knockbreda then offered me the job on a Monday night. And I couldn't turn it down. It was a Championship 1 established club. I couldn't turn it down, and I took it. And then just it so happened then about 2 weeks later that Bangor board got in power. So obviously, I couldn't pursue that after already taking the Knockbreda job. So I often wonder what would have happened if both jobs were on the table at the same time. It would, because obviously Bangor is such a big kind of traditional Irish league club. But yes, I went to Knockbreda, and it was a very daunting challenge, I think, initially, because it was, I think, 31 when I took the Knockbreda job, going into Championship 1, big jump from amateur Premier.
And the big jump, was that in terms of managing better players, playing against better teams, having like your way of playing trusted in a higher level? What kind of was, what was the differences between the two?
In every way. All of those, absolutely, all of those. I think I wasn't really known. I think I'd built myself up to have a reputation in amateur football. Everybody knew who I was. And I was coming to Championship 1 and I was unknown. I think it's fair to say, when you're in the amateur league, you think it's the centre of the universe, and then you come out of it and you realise it's not. And it's really, when I was in the middle sort of here last year, you think it's the centre of the universe, but you realise it's not. Yeah. So people live in bubbles, so when you came out of that amateur league bubble, in the Championship 1, you realise that Championship 1 players don't care who won the amateur league, don't know who won the amateur league, don't know who you are, don't know the best amateur league players. It's just all about the Irish league, and so that was different for me. Coming in and kind of, I would ring people and kind of say it's Lee Forsythe, and they'd be like, oh, Lee, and all of a sudden it was who, so that was different. I think it was a different club. Knockbreda and Ards Rangers, very, very different clubs. I think Ards Rangers, it was a committee. It was run by a committee. Knockbreda was more kind of directed, by an owner more. So that was different. And I probably had more more influence at Ards Rangers. I probably had more freedom at Ards Rangers. I don't think that's unfair to say, but again, I was really, really thankful for Knockbreda. I think that experience has certainly shaped me into who I am today. I was challenged far more at Knockbreda. I was questioned far more at Knockbreda. I was, which I never had at Ards Rangers. So, I could lose a game at Ards Rangers and I would be my own worst critic, and I had to dissect that. At Knockbreda it was very, very different. At Knockbreda it was, why did you lose it? Here's why we think you lost it. Here's why, here's what you could do better. So there was differences. Obviously, again, there was a big difference of style in terms of football. And when I came to Ballymacashire, these were the questions I had asked with the committee. Can I do what I want? Can I play the way I want? This is how I play. And I think Knockbreda wanted to play in a certain manner, in a certain style. That wasn't something that I had done, and that style hadn't suited me. So I ended up, my teams at Ards Rangers were big, strong, physical, in your face. You never got an easy game against us. All of a sudden at Knockbreda, I had a young, talented, very talented, technical team who were all, in Knockbreda maybe wanted to play in a different way. I probably wasn't the right manager for that. In hindsight, they probably shouldn't have appointed me if they wanted a manager to play in that style. And I think people get obsessed with styles, and people get, there's criticism, that my teams play long ball and stuff, and it annoys me, it frustrates me, because my teams score a hell of a lot of goals. I wouldn't consider myself a long ball manager at all. I consider myself, we play fast football, we play quick football. I think, the right back getting the ball and moving into number 6 who passes it over the left back and the crowd give a ripple of applause, that's not for me. It doesn't excite me. The day that, they change the rules of football and you get points based on possession, I will absolutely change my style. But until that day comes, I have no interest in that. But that was a big thing at Knockbreda. That was, Knockbreda wanted to look well, and it was challenging, but learnt a lot. I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity, because I probably learnt more. I was at Knockbreda for just over 2.5 years. I learnt more probably in 2.5 years at Knockbreda than I did in 9 years at Ards Rangers. So without that experience, I don't think I would be, where I am today.
So you just think it was wrong time at Knockbreda then, just like the wrong time?
No, not the wrong time. I don't think it was. I think it was the right time. I think it was just maybe the wrong club, just to have that the venture into. I can say that as well. It probably wasn't. Listen, it was a good experience. It was a great experience. You either, if you're not winning, you're learning. And I think, when I first went into Knockbreda, brought a lot of amateur league players. That was obviously what I knew. Brought a lot of amateur league players with us. We were getting red cards every week. But for a period, we were actually top of the championship. We were top of Championship 1, and it was, but we brought a bit of Amateur League 2 to Championship 1, and we ruffled feathers. I remember we beat Nal Curry's Portadown 1-0 at Shamrock Park. We went on, a great run, but I say the club weren't happy with I think just maybe some of the personalities in the group. I think I should have been stronger. I think, on my first day on the job, I'd signed 2 players, Ryan Newbury and Jamie Patterson, and I went to sign a third, was Big Sticky Hislop. And Big Sticky had been great for me at Ards Rangers from the Shankle Road, but rough around the edges, but a real battler, real warrior. But he'd been at Knockbreda previously, and I was told on day 1, I put the forms through, and it was a case of, yep, you can sign them, but you're not signing Sticky Hislop. And I was like, why not? And they were like, well, he's been here before and he's a troublemaker. Now I'm 31, I'm just happy to be there. I'm happy to be in Championship 1, and I said okay. I wouldn't say okay now. I would say I'm the manager, I can sign my players or not sign my players. So just things like that. That was one example. So that was in kind of day 1 of just not having that full total say of who and what. There was a player, Kieran Murray, as well. We had playing for us, and again, Kieran was hard to manage. He was difficult, but he was talented, and all the best players are, hard to manage, to be honest. And again, I had to get, I was told I had to get rid of Kieran, just for his kind of behaviour. So there was things like that, I think, and there were, my teams were or are fully committed 100%. I think that's why the fans here at Ballymacash like the team, because they know they give everything. The players, that's what I expect from players, fully. And there's no, whereas I ended up with I remember at Knockbreda doing, some of my team talks, you may imagine, maybe a bit loud and, very motivational. And, I've done these team talks at different clubs and always get a good reaction and get a changing room ready to go out and die for me and ready to go out and give the club everything. And at Knockbreda I found the players wanted more the technical and tactical information, which they get, they always get, but I think I was giving these team talks and then maybe just having 19-year-olds kind of looking at me, and I kind of like, something's not right here. It doesn't feel, didn't feel like my teams, they didn't feel like, now, and again, I'm not ripping the players, because it wasn't the players' fault, because the club wanted young players who could maybe bring the club some money, or for sell-on value. I think Knockbreda had a really good opportunity, or a really good experience with Bobby Burns, who went on and had a great career just before I came to Knockbreda, and Bobby had done really, really well. So Knockbreda wanted to bring young players in on loan or give players an opportunity, and I understand why. I think there's a value in that. I think it's Knockbreda maybe don't have a catchment area as such. They're out in the hills a wee bit, so I can understand why. I probably wasn't the right manager to do that. They probably needed more development type coach. But I say it was a great learning opportunity for me to get to go to, and manage at those grounds, against those clubs, against those managers, to learn, just so much about the game. I learned so much about myself. So without that, I probably wouldn't be where I was. But it was difficult as well. Knockbreda was good at the start, but the amateur league players were kind of, unless they were young, they weren't really what the club wanted. Whereas I wanted to bring in, kind of 30-year-olds with a missing tooth. And that, I think we needed that. But it just wasn't to be. But never fell out with anybody at all. My time there, with Colin and Alan and stuff, never fell out with any of them. All were left on relatively good terms. I still speak to them both now. I've seen them, and I thank them for the opportunity that I have. But probably a wee bit of tinge of frustration from me that I maybe just couldn't have done things a bit more my way. And I remember actually, like, one of the stories at Knockbreda, we played Larne. This is when Larne, just the money, it all came into Larne, and Kenny Bruce was there, and Tiernan Lynch. We were playing Larne first game of the season at Breda Park, and I said to Colin, we came down at the summer and pre-season, and the grass hadn't been cut, and Colin's like, we need to get there was actually the youth under-19 championships. The women's had been playing using Breda Park, so the pitch had been extended, been opened up to meet UEFA standards. So the pitch was huge. So I came down, and Colin says, the pitch will be cut and ready for Larne. I said, Colin, don't cut that pitch. I said, that's perfect. So the club were like, I was like, no, the pitch is perfect. The pitch is absolutely perfect the way it is. It was long, it was really long. But I said, and bring the lines in. I said, bring the lines of the pitch in. So surprisingly, they done it. And I said, we'll get hammered. They will hammer us. This was Larne, with a Davy McDade. This was basically the Larne team the team that walked the championship that year. Mm-hmm. So Larne came down. They cried their eyes out. They seen the pitch. Tiernan Lynch, still on YouTube now. Tiernan Lynch post-match interview, crying about the pitch. The pitch was borderline embarrassing. It was like a jungle. You were obviously building that not to suit Larne. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we brought the pitch in. I mean, the pitch, it was like a football pitch inside a football pitch. But we drew one each, and we actually missed a young Reece Clown missed a sitter in the last minute to beat them 2-1, and they couldn't get away from us, and Marty Donnelly's, Davy McDade's, they just couldn't get playing. So that was brilliant. We went away in our second, that was the first game of the season, we went away to Limavady, the second game of the season, and Larmo's first game of the season, went away to Limavady, second game of the season, went 2-1. And then the third game of the season we were at home to, was it home to Portadown? I think we were home to Portadown. And I said, don't touch the pitch. Leave the pitch the way it is. Keep it small, keep it narrow, keep it tight. Obviously cut it a wee bit, but not, and I had made that very, very clear. Came down on the Saturday for the match. The pitch was like a bowling green. It had been cut. The pitch was massive again. It was opened, extended right out. And I just, and they said, the pitch looks bad. They said, the pitch looks bad. I says, the league table's going to look worse. That was my kind of answer. So wee things like that, if that pitch had stayed like that, we would have won points. If we could take a point off Lauren, and that's what we had, that's what we wanted, that's for the players. Obviously it wasn't a level playing field in terms of the resources of other clubs, because Knockbreda certainly didn't have good resources when I was there in comparison to the clubs that were in the league, which is, Championship 1 is a very, very competitive league. So just things like that, but it was a great overall, I probably wouldn't be the manager I am without those experiences, but certainly I wouldn't, when I go into a club, when I came into here, literally I'd asked Balmacash, the committee will tell you, I was asking them as many questions they were asking me. I was like, can I do this? Am I allowed to do that? Can I sign this? Can I do that? And it's hopefully that's maybe one of the reasons why it's worked so well.
So your time at Knockbreda, Championship 1 came to an end, and then that led to a small time out of the game.
Yeah, but that was my first ever time.
Before your next move?
My first ever time out of the game. I'd never ever been, I've never had a Saturday with no football match. So very, very strange, very, very strange experience for me. Hated it, despised it, and obviously I live and breathe football. People say it's nice to have a break, and I actually don't understand. I can't understand managers who have like 2 years out of the game and all. I just, football's my life. I literally live and breathe, football. My result on a Saturday, it doesn't ruin my Saturday night, it ruins my week. I'm in a bad mood the following Friday. It just means that much to me. I probably prioritise it higher than I probably should, but it just means so much. So being out of the game, I think I left Knockbreda on the 29th of October 2019, and it was the longest 2 months of my life, in November and December, awful. I say that's when there could have been several clubs, all amateur league clubs, nobody was coming knocking, no big clubs were coming knocking for me, and it was all amateur league offers. I'd had several amateur league clubs offer me, and I didn't really want to take it because my heart really wasn't in it. But eventually, I say Island McGee had been the most persistent, and I knew quite a few of them. Michael Moore, obviously, who had played with at Carrick when I was a young player. He's obviously my player here now. But there was quite a few I knew, so I agreed to take the Island McGee job. Then I took them in January 20. I think I went to Island McGee, but due to COVID came in, and I was only actually at Island McGee for 7 games. So it was a kind of short period with COVID and stuff came in. But it was a great, I have to say, I really actually enjoyed my time at Island McGee. It probably doesn't get mentioned that much when people talk on me, or people don't really associate me with Island McGee because I wasn't there for a very long time. But some real good characters, and I think what actually it did for me was it allowed me to be me again. And they bent over backwards. Michael Devine there at Island McGee had to give a mention to, because he really looked after me, and they bent over backwards and everything I asked for. But it was just good to kind of find myself again and kind of put my type of identity back on a team again. And I think we were actually building a really good side. And when this opportunity came to come to Ballymacash, and I think then obviously I took a few players that I'd signed for Island McGee. I took a few players here, so I think they fell out with me a wee bit. But I enjoyed that period. But to say being out of the game for 2 months was, I just don't understand how anybody does it, because it was just nothing replicates that buzz of being a manager on the sideline on Saturday.
So how did you fill your couple of months off? Was it going to watch games? Was it family time?
No, we went and watched games. That was, went and watched games, and kind of floated around just watching different games every Saturday for those 2 months. But didn't enjoy it. Didn't enjoy it at all. I was watching games and seeing things that I thought was, wrong, and you can't do anything about it. You're just kind of standing there, you know. So no, it wasn't for me. Just watching, you know, football, being a spectator, not the same.
Doesn't do it for you.
No.
I can say the same for myself. So since you had such a short time at Island McGee and you thought you were building a good team, and obviously COVID and stuff brought that to an end, what was the attraction to here that made you leave Island McGee after such a short time?
Well, I didn't really know a lot about Ballymacash at all, and obviously I'd seen the kind of the job being advertised when Galty left. I thought Galty done a great job here in that he raised the profile of the club, because he brought in obviously some high profile players who he played with. I know friends of his, you know, so the Darren Murrays and the Rory Pattersons and stuff were personal friends of Michael, and that's why they signed to the club. You know, people will tell you other reasons, but it was very much because of that friendship. Because as soon as I joined, they all left. But you know, so he done a great job in raising the profile of the football club, and that was even how I kind of got to know about Ballymacash. And I think they have a really good social media presence. That like Josh and stuff does a great job with the social media, and you know, everybody was just starting to talk about the club. So when I then researched, you know, the club and done kind of a bit of homework, I was like, this is quite interesting. You know, I think that it would be something I'd like to explore. And actually, when I came to meet the committee, and the committee spoke to several managers, I know that. I wasn't sure if it was for me. I'll be honest. I remember I pulled up. I met them. I think it was a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, and I was talking to Davy Lemon, my assistant, on the phone out in the car park, and I said to Davy, look, I'm going to go and have a chat with him. Davy was happy at Island McGee. You know, we were doing okay in terms of the players we brought in. I said, look, I'll go in and have a chat with them for 10 minutes. And Davy's like, and I said, I'll ring you as soon as I come out. Davy's like, I'll not be 10 minutes knowing you. I said, no, it will be. I said, half an hour at the most. So I think I was about 8 o'clock. I think I rang about 10:15, you know, at the time I came out. But I came in and met the committee, and I was just blown away. I was just absolutely blown away by the club, you know, in terms of what they were telling me about the sports academy. You know, it's just a really unique football club. I don't think people actually realise just what goes on here. That this football club is the actual heartbeat of the community. It's the centre of the community. And I say with the sports academy, you know, I think we're the first kind of fan-owned club, you know, in Northern Ireland. Much like that, I think people said before, like the FC United of Manchester, that model in England. So, you know, with the sports academy, there's so many shareholders, and the community have got involved and, you know, really bought into it. You know, so many people have bought shares. That was how we were able to get the new pitch, you know, and then they've done another share offer for the new building, which is being built soon, which obviously has you know, it's going to have a gymnasium, it's going to have a cryo spa. It's really going to set the club apart. But the Bluebell here, you know, it is the centre of the community, you know, because there's not another kind of, you know, pub or bar in this area of Lisburn. You know, you probably have to go into the centre. So people come here, you know, so just the potential of the club is what struck me, and the fact that, you know, from being at Knockbreda, you know, where it was very much kind of one or two people, you know, doing everything, this was really a committee, you know, a football committee with a sports academy, you know, committee with directors, and it's filled of very successful business people, you know, who have a great track record, and, you know, who know what they're doing and know what they're trying to build, and you can. So it just really hit me. I was like, this is, you know, this could be for me here. So when I met with the committee on the Wednesday, I was like, yeah, this is definitely what I would love. So I left on the Wednesday, and then they rang me on the Friday and offered me the job then on the Friday. And Island McGee actually had a match on the Saturday, and I said on the Friday, I said, look, you know, I didn't want to be disrespectful to Island McGee. You know, I'm going to see the game tomorrow, you know, and I'll speak to you on Sunday, because I, you know, wanted to focus on that game, but my head was turned. You know, I went to the Island McGee game and I was a ghost. You know, I was just kind of on the sideline. My head was. I can understand now when people talk about players having their heads turned and stuff, because my head was turned. You know what I mean? I was sitting on the sideline and even giving my team talk and just wasn't myself. You know, I knew that. I knew what I was going to do, and then obviously the game was over on the Saturday night. Then I rang on the Saturday night and accepted the job, and we've went from there really.
Went from strength to strength. And when you come into the job, obviously it was just the COVID time, but was there a clear kind of like objective that you had to achieve or that you wanted to achieve, or were you just told to come in and just see what happens?
No, there wasn't really said. I mean, I know through the sports academy, the club has like a 5-year plan, and that's kind of, they review that, and there's aims and objectives within that. But no, when I came in from the football point of view, I think I came in and the COVID season was still happening. I think the Mid-Ulster League was one of the few leagues that were kind of trying to get through it. So my first 2 games were in the old league, of the previous season, and with Balmacash weren't going that well at that time. But we had obviously come in and brought a lot of new players in. Galtee had left a few weeks previous, so there had been no manager for a few weeks. But I think we drew and win our first 2 games, but then COVID stopped and then the league was scrapped. So for that start of the following season, obviously we were able to get more players in, and it was just really to be competitive. I think probably top 4 was what the club were looking. There was no set objectives. I wasn't told you have to win the league or you have to win promotion, or to be honest, nothing but support from everybody around me. I think I set my own objectives privately. What I mean? I think we knew it would. I remember we played Crewe in the Stephen Sons and we got beat 2-1, and that was kind of a worry. Are we maybe we're not as good as we think we are on paper. But it was the second league game of the season. We were away to Bourneview Mill, and I knew they were a decent side without really knowing a lot about them. And I was anxious because I didn't know how good we were. And all we went down, we were super. And after the game, I said to Davey, I says, yeah, we're on to something here. This is, we're close. Mm-hmm. And obviously, with a great year. We played 30 league games, lost 1, win 25, drew 4. I think we scored 124 goals, of which 91 came from wide areas. So we're doing something right with the wingers. But so it was obviously a great season, and the club were nothing but supportive. There was no pressure put on. I think my anxiety didn't really celebrate the league win, because without getting promoted, the league win meant nothing. You know what I mean? Because it wouldn't have been a success, for getting to that period, because we knew that the playoffs were going to be difficult with so many clubs potentially rumoured to be looking to go up, and if it didn't go up this year, it didn't go up last year, if it won the league this year, you could have another 3 or 4 teams coming out of the woodwork wanting, so that the playoffs to go up can end up 3 or 4 teams, but thankfully in the end it only came down to us and St James's. So that was enjoyable. Now, that was probably the second biggest buzz in my career was winning the playoff to get the club, into the Irish League. That was obviously, it was huge for everybody, and just seeing what it meant to the people who have been here from the very, very start, it was special for them.
So you realised early on in the season that you had a strong team, that you had the potential to be successful. At what point in the season did you think that promotion to the Championship 2 was a real possibility?
I think, to be fair to Crewe United, they pushed us all the way. So there was never a definitive eventuality about that we were going to win the league, because Crewe had a slow start to the season, and they went 17 games in a row during the year. So it just showed how consistent we were actually. That we still, I think we actually win the league in the end by probably like 5 or 6 points. So I thought early doors, I think it became very clear it was going to be us and Crewe. Probably really from September, October time, we knew that that would happen, and they beat us in the start of 2022, first league game of 2022 away, beat us 2-0, was their first league defeat, and I think everybody thought at that stage our wheels were going to fall off and we were going to fall apart, and great credit to the players, it never bothered us a bit, we just got back on it and went back to into our winning run really, so I was always confident. I thought we scored a lot of goals. And if you have a team who scored a lot of goals, and and it was Alaba, we had a really good defensive record. So those 2 things are always going to get you close. So I just did feel that I just thought we were a better side. I did think we were a better side in Crewe. I thought we had more depth in Crewe. I thought that in the long run, the injuries and suspensions towards the end of the year would favour us more. That's thankfully how it transpired, so, but even for the promotion itself, there was lots to achieve from the club's point of view to hit that standard, because obviously there's requirements to get into the Irish League, so there was lots of hard work going on, and again it shows the power of the club, because I think we had an inspection at the club it looked like we were going to win the league, and there was an inspection from the IFA. It came down, and there was so many things that the club didn't meet the criteria. You know, this was wrong, that was wrong, this was wrong, and that for me showed the kind of power of Ballymacash and showed the power of the sports academy, because within 10 days everything had been done. Within 10 days, you know, away dressing room walls had been knocked down, extended, there was new turnstiles installed. You know, it was phenomenal. You know, when we're actually done it again, all the hard work that those people done, you know, and people came out of their own work and stopped their own work and took annual leave to get all this, you know, to meet the criteria. So again, it was special when it actually happened, you know, just for all that hard work. But when it actually sunk in, when the moment sunk in, it would actually done it. You know, it was 2-leg playoff, and the first leg we beat St James's here 3-0, and we were excellent. And then the second leg, our goalkeeper got injured after 20 minutes, and he got injured in their goal, in the lead up to their goal. So they were 1-0 up, 3-1 in aggregate, and our goalkeeper was injured. So, and this is 20 minutes gone, so St James's, and we're away from home. So they really, I think at that thought they were going to throw the kitchen sink at us, and we came in at half time, and it was 3-1 in aggregate, 1-0 down in the second leg with an injured goalkeeper. You know, we brought young Rhys Lawson on, who was the reserve team goalkeeper, and you know, it was a wee bit of anxiety, I think it's fair to say, because if they had got the second goal, you know, it could have been a different story. But thankfully we did, and we went on. The game finished 2-2, and we went 5-2 overall. And I say just the celebrations that night, and the celebrations here in the club and stuff, you know, was excellent. So that realisation, and we had our end of season dinner, you know, and David Jeffrey was a guest speaker, you know, and just to realise, you know, he was saying we're an Irish League club now. You know, it was a nice moment, you know, to look back on what we came into. You know, I think, you know, myself and the staff and the players, you know, I think, you know, overall the job we'd done in such a short space of time was probably beyond all of our wildest dreams. You know, I always backed myself to be successful, but probably just didn't think it would come maybe as quickly as it did. But thankfully it did.
What do you think would have happened if you didn't achieve promotion via the playoff?
I think it would have been disappointing. I think we'd all, you know, we had to lick our wounds, but I've no doubt that we would have, you know, nothing is run here any differently now that we're in the PAL than when we're in the Mid-Ulster League. You know, we don't run things differently. We don't take training differently. I don't try to sign players any differently. You know, we had built the team last year. We built a team in the Mid-Ulster League that, if we got promoted, didn't need major surgery, and that's the way it's been. You know, I think like we beat Limavady here 3-0 the other week, and you know there was only 2 players, Bam Neeson and Jack Smith, that were new from this season. You know, the other 9 were the Mid-Ulster League team. So you know, we would have been fine. You know, it would have been very disappointing. But you know, if we hadn't have, you know, Crew probably would have went out of the league. You know, so it would have left 1 or 2 of us. I think, you know, we've left behind a weaker Mid-Ulster League that we're out of it. You know, I think there's more of opportunity now for other clubs to kind of, for your Oxfords and your you know, to compete with the likes of Crew. But no, it would have been fine. It would have been disappointing. But you know, I mean, you know, that's been the scenario with Crew probably for 4 seasons. You know, where they've had ambitions to go up and it hasn't happened for them. So they've had to, you know, rebuild and go again. And we would have been exactly the same. But thankfully, you know, I say I've been bridesmaid and so many other times in my career, but thankfully this time, you know, it was our wedding day, so we were okay.
So you move into Championship 2, which is a very good league again. It's now, what are we, the first weekend in the new year, and you're sitting top. You couldn't really imagine it, if you're being honest, to go as well as it has been.
No, I think that I knew that we had potential to have a bounce. You know, because the club was in such a high from last year, the players were in such a high, so I knew that we were probably going to get a bit of a bounce going into the new season, and we showed that. Like our first game away to Portstewart, you know, we took a great crowd Tuesday night, took a great crowd down to Portstewart. The players were, you know, as fired up for that game. It was like a cup final to them, you know, being the first Irish League game for Ballymacash Rangers. So we knew we'd get a bounce and we win 3-0, and that probably lasted. To be honest with you, you know, that bounce has probably lasted 6 months now, so I probably have to accept it's probably not a bounce and we're just a good side. You know, so it has again went, you know, better than we could have hoped for. I think we made some good signings in the summer that's really strengthened us and the players that are already here. But I'm very reflective as well, and I don't get carried away, and I keep my feet in the ground, and we do have to walk before we can run, and there is obviously still some very good teams in the league, and the fact, to be honest, that we are being talked about with Bangor is, it's pinch yourself, because people talk about pressure and all. Ballymacash Rangers, a mid-Ulster League team, being compared to competing with Bangor, a proper, as I said earlier, a proper traditional Irish League football club, who have won Irish Cups and always competed at the top end of the Irish League. I say I grew up as a Glentoran fanatic, going to watch the Glens at Clandyboy, against Bangor, and Ballymacash at that stage would have been playing on a mud pitch in the middle of the estate, so where the two clubs have came from, and I mean, there's no, I think it's probably nice for Bangor to maybe have a rival again, maybe after having the doldrums of the couple of years in the Ballymena League and stuff, but it's not rivals for us, it's in fact, I've seen a few kind of tweets and a few messages there when they win the Stephen Sons Cup, about Merry Christmas except for Ballymacash and blah blah blah, and see, to be honest with you, that absolutely warms my heart, the fact that we must be doing something right if a football club like Bangor are worried about what we do. We get beat against Queens here the other week, our first defeat of the season, and apparently the biggest cheer of the day was at Clandyboy when the result was read out at the end of the game, and I'm kind of going, this is unbelievable. We're Ballymacash Rangers, so it's I think it's a real compliment. All that stuff actually just it actually encourages us and spurs us on. It makes us, we must be doing something well, because it wasn't our aim. Our aim, I met with the committee here at the start of the season, and the aim then was stay in the league. If you can keep us in the league, you've done a great job. And that is exactly, so even, we went on Saturday there, and it was like, well, that's another 3 points towards staying up, and that's how we see it. So, I'm not one for looking at league tables, looking at who's played who. I was talking to somebody earlier, like, oh, Bangor started playing Mayola twice. And I was kind of going, I have no idea, because if you don't win your own game, it doesn't matter if fiddlers who's played what or what the other team do or what, because you can go into a game on a Saturday and think, well, we're playing them and they're playing them and they'll drop points there and they might, or we might. See, if you take your eye, if you take even 1% off what we're doing, and I have no interest, absolutely no interest, so I know we're top, but I know Bangor have a couple of games in hand, but I couldn't tell you the points, I couldn't tell you the difference, I couldn't tell you, I don't sit and obsess about that or look at that. If we are, our aim now at this stage, if we could be in the top 6 come the split, would be flipping unbelievable. It would be, I would have ripped your arm off for it at the start of the year. And anything after that, and the other thing, we're talking about it earlier, about getting promoted, you have to be ready. The club have to be ready. We wouldn't turn it down, we wouldn't say no to it, absolutely not. But it's whereas Bangor, I think this is probably their 4th year in the PAL. If they don't go up, it's probably a disaster for them. With the effort they've put into trying to go up, it would be a disaster for them. It could be a disaster for us if we did go up. Because of the increased expectations and the teams you're playing against. I don't think the level is that different between the mid-Ulster and the PAL. It's not huge, is it? It's obviously better in the PAL, but it's not massive. The difference between the PAL and the Championship 1 is humongous, absolutely humongous. And again, the gap between Championship 1 and the Premier League, I think, is humongous.
Getting bigger.
Probably bigger again, but I say it's a big jump. So, sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. So we wouldn't turn it down, but it's not something we're obsessing about. We're just literally one game at a time, and we're really enjoying being here. I'm enjoying, kind of being back at a good standard, and having linesmen again, and all that kind of professionalism, and not playing in some glorified park pitches. Some of the grounds in Mid-Ulster League were great, but some of them were, you're kind of wondering how they're intermediate standard. So I don't miss that. So I'm enjoying going to places like the club's enjoying going to. We went to Armagh the other week and drank the bar dry. The supporters did, and I think that's, that we're enjoying that the journey. I think is the best way to put it.
So, what is the ambitions of Ballymacash kind of long term now that you are an Irish League team? Long
term, I have no doubt. There's as I said earlier, there's a new building going up in the football club, and that is going to, I think just set the place apart again. I think that's just going to take a step on, because obviously the revenue that will bring the club with the gymnasium and stuff, will be humongous. So I have no doubt, if you were to look at Ballymacash Rangers in kind of 5, 6, 7 years, that they will be at the very minimum, they'll be a Championship 1 club, and I think longer term, there's a real opportunity there to be an Irish League club, in the Premier Division, because you look at, where Dungannon Swifts came from, Newry City came from, all these kind of clubs all came through the Middlesbrough League and where they've ended up. So that's got to be the aim. Lisburn's not a small place. Lisburn's huge, so it's not a Knockbreda in the hills with not a support. This is a real centre of community here, and if I have no doubt if we were bringing big clubs, and the support we get here now is incredible. So I could only imagine if we went up. Now, that's not to say I'd be the manager to do it. I might not be. I'll have to be very, very lucky and very, very successful to stay here. But certainly the ambition of the club, longer term, and it is longer term. That's years down the line, But I think now we're in the Irish League. Why would you want to settle for second best? I don't think we want to stay as a PAL club, but that's not an immediate pressure, But certainly long term for this football club. If I stayed here, my ambition would be to push through the ranks and take the club the whole way. But certainly there's nothing that the club are lacking in terms of the infrastructure here, with the youth section, which is unbelievable now, and the good players that are coming through there. So the sustainability is going to be there for the football club, with young players, coming through. The women's team's there. There's such a good feeling about it, and the support is there. There's a lot of people about this football club. I remember I signed a player, and I brought him down here on a Thursday night, just to chat, and he says, "What's on here tonight?" And I says, "Nothing." But the club was just busy, and that's unique. You don't get that at every football club. So I'm very, very lucky to be here. I understand I'm in a privileged position, but I have to do well to stay here. But certainly for the sports academy and all that, and the shareholders invest in the club, they're not going for all that effort, and they're not doing all that just to, tread water in the PAL. But I say we do have to walk before we can run, and it is a long-term plan, not a short-term plan. But everything's here for this club to go to the very top.
And what is your personal ambitions? I know you got your A licence there not so long ago.
Yeah. Listen, it's to manage the very, very top. Go as far as I can. I think it's a wee bit different for me now. I think that what I was saying earlier about when I first went to Knockbreda, people probably didn't know who I was. I feel like that's not the case anymore. I feel like people know who I am now more so. I think that I know far more Irish League players. I think I feel far more comfortable in this kind of environment, and going to playing better clubs, and I enjoy it more. I think that I'm not overawed at all. I think that I back myself now. I see what other people have done, and I mean, one of my frustrations definitely is that players get jobs based on what they've done as a player, and I think I am in a unique position that I don't have the big playing career behind me, but I think I have experience that far outweighs that as a manager. I don't think if you're a good player, it makes you a good manager. When you get players who finish the game and maybe play at the top level, and then they walk into a very good job, maybe at the top end of Championship 1 or in the Premier League, based on what they were as a player. I can understand, obviously, to a certain degree, but it is a frustration sometimes and there's many other managers like me, in my position. But I would certainly back myself, and I think that, and again, the A licence and stuff, going through that process was great. You learn so much, you network, you meet so many good people through the B licence, through the A licence. But it doesn't actually teach you about managing. It teaches you about coaching. It's a coaching qualification. How to take a session, and how to implement your style of play. But it doesn't teach you about managing. It doesn't teach you about, coping with players who are difficult, and how to leave boys out, and how to keep morale happy. So it's all those things you have to learn yourself. So you can have all the badges in the world. It doesn't. I've been managing now, I think, 19 years, if you just in terms of taking a team. I've been in first team football from 2008, so 14, 15 years I've been a first team manager at a football club. So I think I'm in a unique enough position. So certainly I want to go to I want to push myself and manage as high a level as I can. Would love to take Ballymacash there. There's no reason why it couldn't be. But you know, this club's all the opportunity to go that way. But certainly I'll be doing everything I can to push myself and the football club, you know, as far as we can go.
Fantastic. Well, Lee, that is the end of our podcast, and I wish you and Ballymacash all the very best for the future.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show.